It's 3 a.m. and your children are safe and asleep. But there's a phone ringing in the White House. Something's happening in the world. When that call gets answered, shouldn't the president be the one, the only one, who had judgment and courage to oppose the Iraq war from the start? Who understood the real threat to America was al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, not Iraq? Who led the effort to secure loose nuclear weapons around the globe? In a dangerous world, it's judgment that matters.
It happened on a Delta Northwest Airlines Airbus 330, the one you see here, inbound from Amsterdam to Detroit. That's when officials say a passenger, a Nigerian national, tried to detonate some kind of explosive.
The Obamas won't be dreaming of a white Christmas, but their $9 million vacation home may give the White House a run for its money. The 5-bedroom home fronts a golden stretch of sand in the exclusive Oahu enclave of Kailua. How kind of top of the line are we talking?
Well, it's high end.
Of this breaking news story, CNN's Kate Baldwin is working her sources, gathering information on who this guy is and what he's saying. Ed Henry is with the president in Hawaii. Let's start with Kate. Kate, what do you know?
Hey there, Allie. Well, according to a federal security bulletin obtained by CNN, a Nigerian national ignited a small explosive device at the end of an international flight in Detroit earlier today. Also, according to this bulletin, this passenger is claiming to have extremist affiliation and claims the device was acquired in Yemen, along with instructions as to when it should be used. The FBI is leading this investigation and obviously is checking into this person's background and capabilities. The federal bulletin says this passenger is in custody and has been taken to a hospital to be treated for burns sustained from this explosion. The flight we're talking about, as you mentioned, is Northwest Flight 253, originating in Amsterdam and landing in Detroit just before noon local time, according to the Transportation Security Administration. Initial reports from Delta Airlines, the parent company of Northwest, was that the passenger ignited firecrackers either as the plane was on approach or had just landed. And a Delta Airlines spokesperson says one or two other passengers sustained some minor injuries in this incident. Allie?
We are looking for the President of the United States on Christmas Day, when you have a radicalized Muslim trying to take down an American airliner on Christmas Day, to reassure the American people. I think he could have come out and said, we are assessing the facts, we're assessing the situation.
The First Family is hoping for a quieter day in Hawaii after President Obama took time out from his year-end break Monday to comment on Flight 253.
All right, Chuck, give us a sense of how the White House is planning to address this criticism moving forward, that the president is too distracted to deal with national security. Do they plan to speak back to that?
His response, which was initially, Ed, I think disastrous, before he came out yesterday and acknowledged systemic failures, really was late and it was measured. It did not match the outrage that Americans were feeling over these severe lapses in the system, and how insecure we all felt as a result of this story.
The House Intelligence Committee says the Obama administration failed to connect the dots on national security issues.
President Obama waited too long to comment on the Christmas bombing.
Disappointed it's taken the president 72 hours to even address this issue.
The president has decided to stay silent for 72 hours. He needs to explain that.
It's over 72 hours from the time of the incident to the time that the president spoke today.
People living in the real world, meanwhile, are trying to figure out why the warning signs were missed here.
That this president wasn't sufficiently focused on terrorism. Do you agree?
The president taking heat, as we said, for waiting 3 days before issuing his first comments about the Christmas Day bomber.
What, the White House actually knew about an underwear bombing back in October? President Obama's chief counterterrorism advisor says there was no smoking gun that might have led intelligence officials to Umar Abdul-Muttalib before he boarded that plane on Christmas Day for Detroit. But as Congress prepares to dig deeper into the warning signs that were out there, more of them appear to be emerging.
And if the president is pointing fingers, he needs to point them at himself also, because the tone he set has had a chilling effect across the entire intelligence community.
President Obama, when he was on the campaign trail, was very strong about prosecuting the war on terror. When he came in, immediately the war on terrorism vernacular disappeared from the president and his officials.
Careful in this business, but it seems to me the State Department got the first word. The word then got to the FBI, so no problem with the State Department's handling of this in Lagos.
That experience doesn't matter, or that it, even in today's world, is a liability. But as generals and admirals, ambassadors, and other senior leaders charged with protecting our security No, experience doesn't just count for something. Often when lives are on the line and a decision must be made, experience counts for everything.
It's 3 a.m. and your children are safe and asleep. But there's a phone in the White House and it's ringing. Something's happening in the world. Your vote will decide who answers that call. Whether it's someone who already knows the world's leaders, knows the military, someone tested and ready to lead in a dangerous world. It's 3 a.m. and your children are safe and asleep. Who do you want answering the phone?
How that terrorist boarded a plane with explosives that could have killed nearly 300 innocent people, and how will strengthen aviation security going forward. How our government failed to connect the dots in a way that would have prevented a known terrorist from boarding a plane for America, and the steps we're going to take to prevent that from happening again.
A firm President Obama in the state dining room. The president also took responsibility for the mistakes, the government mistakes that may have contributed to this Abdul Muttalib being allowed on that aircraft that was bound for Detroit. The president said, "The buck stops with me."
Have we taken our eye off the ball in Yemen?
Not just Yemen. I think you could say the same about Somalia. I think you could say the same about some Central Asian republics. Somalia right now is basically run by an al-Qaeda franchise.
For ultimately, the buck stops with me. As president, I have a solemn responsibility to protect our nation and our people. And when the system fails, it is my responsibility. It is my responsibility. My responsibility.
The audience is laughing.
What my husband did, and that's fair, because after all, politics is about trying to make it clear why people should vote for you instead of your opponent. But when I hear him criticizing the 1990s, I'm always wondering which part of it didn't he like, the peace or the prosperity, because I liked both.
I have never felt so blessed. The challenges that I have faced in this campaign are nothing compared to those that millions of Americans face every day in their own lives. So today, I'm going to count my blessings and keep on going. I'm going to keep doing what I was doing long before the cameras ever showed up, and what I'll be doing long after they're gone. Working to give every American the same opportunities I had, and working to ensure that every child has the chance to grow up and achieve his or her God-given potential. I will do it with a heart filled with gratitude, with a deep and abiding love for our country, and with nothing but optimism and confidence for the days ahead.
This new CNN opinion research poll shows Secretary Clinton has a 71% approval rating. The president at 64%.
And she wants to make sure that that final paragraph in this piece of history is written the right way.
This is now our time.
Dare to compete, Mrs. Clinton.
It's hard to think about what's going on in Washington. 62 counties, 16 months, 3 debates, 2 opponents, and 6 black pantsuits later, because of you, here we are.
Hillary Rodham Clinton, one of the most famous women in the world.
He patiently talked over each of my concerns and carefully evaluated the odds I faced. We both knew that if I ran, I would be on my own as I had never been before. With each conversation, I found myself swinging back and forth. I needed a push. Finally, I got one, but it didn't come from a political advisor or Democratic leader. Dare to compete, Mrs. Clinton. Dare to compete.
An America defined by deep and meaningful equality, from civil rights to labor rights, from women's rights to gay rights, from from ending discrimination. There are no acceptable limits, and there are no acceptable prejudices in the 21st century in our country.
We have a common task and a common challenge.
Why can't we see that we are all in this together? 18 million of you from all walks of life. Women and men, young and old, Latino and Asian, African American and Caucasian, rich, poor and middle class, gay and straight, you have stood with me. And I will continue to stand strong with you every time, every place, and every way that I can. The dreams we share are worth fighting for.